There's a belief that basically every copywriter holds right now, which is that if I just get better at copywriting, if I just study harder, write more, improve my conversion rates, I'll finally be able to make a consistent 10K a month and then even more. And about this belief, this sounds completely reasonable because I held that belief for almost 2 years, and the only thing that it led me to was the realization that I'd been wasting months of my time and genuinely deluding myself. So if you have a similar belief right now, I'm gonna be totally upfront and honest with you. Getting better at copywriting has almost nothing to do with breaking through your income ceiling and actually hitting that 5-figure per month income. Copywriting as a career path has basically a structural income ceiling that thousands of talented copywriters grind their ass off trying to break past. And I was one of them too, by the way. But by the end of this video, you're going to understand exactly why and what you actually need to do if hitting that consistent 10, 20, even 25K per month or even more is your real goal. Now, if you don't know me, my name is Ryan. My partner and I have spent the last couple of years deep in the copy and marketing space. We have been working on the launches, email backend system, funnels, and client campaigns across multiple niches. I've been in the trenches and I've faced that ceiling too, and I've also been on the other side of it. So everything that I'm gonna share in this video comes from actual experience, not just some fucking theory that I read on a paper. In this video, I'll show you two specific things. First, the structural reason why there's an income ceiling for copywriters. Second, what the people earning 15, 20, 25K a month in this industry are actually doing differently. And I promise you that it has nothing to do with you being a better writer in the first place. My partner and I had to figure all of this out the hard way after years of executing inside other people's businesses and watching how the economics of this industry actually work from the inside. What we have learned has completely changed how we operate, how we charge, and how clients see us. The reason I'm making this video is pretty simple. No one in this space is going to tell you this. No Tyson 40, no Alex Catoni, no Cardinal Mason, no one. Because the entire industry, every single course, every guru, every YouTube channel is built on selling you the next copy course. Nobody profits from telling you what I'm about to tell you in this video. So yeah, let's get into it. Now, as a copywriter, which most of you watching this are, you've probably been doing this somewhere between 1 and 3 years, right? You're making consistent income, maybe 2 to 5K a month with spikes to maybe 7 or 7.5 or 9K during a good month launch. You're good, your clients don't complain, your copy converts too. But no matter what you do, the number at the end of the month doesn't move the way you expect it to. So what do you do to push that number up? You onboard a new client, and then you realize that now you've gotten more responsibility, more revision rounds, more Slack messages, more deliverables, and more headaches. More client doesn't necessarily mean more money, especially as a copywriter. It just means more work and hence more headache. And if you raise your rates for your current clients, you would risk losing them because they were comfortable at the old rate. Now let me share something that happened to a fellow copywriter that I know. So he ran a full stack launch for his client dropshipping store. It was a multi-day campaign and he did over 200 grand in total sales from that campaign for his client. And he only got paid 2,500 for that. That's roughly around 1.2 to maybe 1.5% of the total revenue his words directly generated. So let me ask you this. If the copy performs, if the work actually works, why does the income stay flat? Why does the person who produces the results not capture a meaningful piece of it? Understand it this way, because this is the reason for it. Every business, every single one has what I call a revenue chain, and it generally goes something like this. You attract the traffic hits the funnel presents an offer, the offer converts or it doesn't, and that conversion becomes revenue. That's the general chain. Now ask yourself honestly, where do copywriters sit in this chain? At the end. They write the assets, the emails, the sales pages, the ad copy, the VSLs. They produce the execution layer, the thing inside the system that tries to convert. But what's actually critical is that they don't own the system. They don't fully own this revenue chain. They don't control the strategy, the actual backend system that maximizes the revenue. They don't decide the offer, the funnel, the positioning, or the traffic source. They just execute inside a system that somebody else has built. And that structural position is what caps their income regardless of how much talented they are. Think of it this way. A carpenter who builds a mansion doesn't own the mansion. The person who commissions it does. The carpenter gets paid per project, per deliverable. First fee done, khalas. The owner of the mansion gets the asset, the appreciation, the leverage, the cash flow. The carpenter builds the very thing that made the owner wealthy and still goes home to a completely different house. Now that was exactly me in every client relationship I was in. I was skilled, producing the asset, making my clients richer, and then being like a fucking carpenter. Now the people making 20 to 50k in this industry, they are not, and I repeat this again, they are not better writers than you. Some of them are barely competent copywriters by any objective standard. What they are is positioned differently. They don't sit at the end of the revenue chain executing tasks. They sit at the top making decisions that actually determine whether a business grows or stagnates. They own the responsibility for outcomes, not just deliverables. And that single difference is what separates a 4k a month ceiling from a 20k a month floor. Now here's where it gets even more interesting, because this isn't just about a money problem. There's a second layer to this that most copywriters don't even realize that they're experiencing. When you call yourself a copywriter, and that's your title, the way you introduce yourself, the way you pitch yourself to your clients immediately put you in a box, and that box is a vendor. Now for your understanding, a vendor is someone you hire to execute a task. You tell them what you need, they produce it, you pay them, you decide if you like it or not, you revise it, you approve it, and then you use it. The vendor doesn't set the strategy, they don't lead the direction, they just wait for your brief. And unfortunately, that's where most copywriters end up. Not because they are not talented, but because they don't have the right set of strategic skills that would actually move them out of the execution layer and into the layer of control and growth. They are not positioned where they can have real leverage. Because it's like when you say you're a copywriter, you're pre-framing yourself on how much authority you're allowed to have in a client's business. You're pre-framing yourself on how strategic your role is, and you're pre-framing your own ceiling before the conversation even starts. And here's the part that genuinely bothers me sometimes because of how stupidly unfair it is. A copywriter who is less experienced than you, but who has the right set of strategic skill set, the skills that actually drive growth, that person will walk into any client conversation and walk out with a high retainer. Not because they write better copy, but because the client sees them as a growth partner, not a vendor. So the question you need to honestly ask yourself is this: what does that other version actually look like? And it's not definitely the copywriter grinding towards the ceiling that will move, but the person on the other side of this, the one charging 3, 4, even 5 times more than any copywriter in a good month, the one who owns the piece of the outcome instead of collecting a flat fee. What does that life on the other side of the equation actually look like? Think of it this way. It's the same industry, same clients, same marketing world, but the way you operate inside it is completely different. As a growth operator, you won't wait for briefs. You open a client conversations with a diagnosis. You ask questions about their revenue system, their conversion bottlenecks, the traffic quality, and within just 30 minutes, you have identified exactly where they're bleeding money. And you can actually give a fix that actually works. You don't propose deliverables, you propose outcomes, and outcomes are what your client are actually desperate for. Clients see you now as a growth partner, someone who understands the entire machine, not just one gear. And your retainer, it actually reflects that. You have fewer clients but high leverage, and your income doesn't drop when you stop adding hours, because you're being paid for the outcomes you drive, the systems you build, and the leverage you bring into the business. That's how charging 8, 10, 12, even 15k per client becomes your normal, because they are not buying your copy anymore. They're buying a growth partner for remarkable growth in their business. And if you really sit with this for a second, it's not just about the money. It's a fact that you wake up and your work actually means something at the level it should mean something. You're not revising the same email for the 4th time because a client doesn't like the tone. You're making the decision that actually moves the revenue. You're leading the strategy. You're in the room where real decisions get made. That's a completely different career, a completely different identity, and a completely different income game. Now, if you're waiting for me to say that here's a step-by-step guide on how you can actually become a growth operator, I'm not gonna do that, because I don't want to be manipulative. And what I'm about to tell you is the most important thing in this entire video, and I need you to hear this. The transition from a copywriter to a growth operator is not a skill you can add, It's not a framework you learn over the weekend. It is a slightly strategic repositioning of how you think about your work, how you enter client conversation, how you structure your pricing, how you tie your value to outcomes, how you bring those outcomes, how you add those strategic set of skills that would actually help you bring those outcomes you promised in the first place, and how you build the kind of authority that makes clients see you as an irreplaceable component in their business. That's not the things that you can absorb from a single video. And I'm gonna be real with you. Most people watching this will feel something shift inside them. They'll nod along and then they'll go right back into looking for another copywriting course. Because the copywriting is the path that they've been sold their whole career. And there's a very expensive comfort in continuing to do what you already know. Because if you actually want to make this transition to a growth operator, then what you can do is that you can reach me out on Instagram and DM me, and I'll send you a complete roadmap for this transition that includes the identity shift, the skill stacking, the repositioning, the pricing structure, the client authority framework, and everything basically that you need to actually become a growth operator and start charging in 5 figures. So if you've been in copywriting for over a year or more, you've been making money, getting results for your clients, but watching your income stay flat no matter how much better you get, then what I've shared in this video should have forced you to reflect on where you actually are in your career. And from here, the only thing that is left is making the decision that will actually change your trajectory.